Welcome to the Playing Books podcast.
And welcome. Today, we're looking at a fascinating, almost ruthless guide to professional success.
We're focusing on the book, The Rules of Work, Expanded Edition First, by Richard Templar. And he calls it a definitive code for personal success.
And he's not kidding. I mean, Templar gets right to the point, doesn't he? He starts with this core thesis that is just brutally honest.
It really is. He targets this common career logic, this flaw we all tend to buy into. The idea that if you just keep your head down, you work hard, you crush your targets, success will just sort of happen.
Right, that it's inevitable. And Templar says that exact mindset is precisely why so many people get stuck.
It's a fundamental failure of perception.
It really is. He formalizes this by saying that everyone in an organization is actually doing two jobs at the same time.
Two jobs.
Two. So you have the job that's on your contract. Let's call it job one. That's your day-to-day. Hitting sales figures, maintaining a system, managing logistics.
And you can be amazing at job one. We all know those people. The engineer who is just meticulous, the salesperson who is always over quota.
Exactly. And in the words of Peter Drucker, who he quotes in the foreword, those people are experts in efficiency. They're doing the job right.
But that's only half the picture.
Not even half, according to Templar. He says the strategic player, the rules player, understands the second job. It's bigger. It's vaguer. It's the job of making the whole organization work, of solving its problems, and maybe most importantly, projecting the ability to operate at a level higher than your current one.
So that's effectiveness, doing the right job.
That's it. It's the difference. If you're only focused on efficiency, you become a really, really valuable cog in the machine.
But you're still a cog.
You're still a cog. But if you excel at effectiveness, you become the person who controls the machine. That's the jump from being managed to being management.
And this isn't just theory for him. This comes from his own story, right?
Yeah.
His famous origin story.
Yes, it's pretty raw. He was an assistant manager, and he was absolutely certain he had a promotion in the bag. He had the skills, the experience. His staff loved him.
He ticked all the boxes for job one.
Every single one. But the job went to a guy named Rob, who Templar just flat out calls useless.
That's the ultimate professional insult, isn't it? To be passed over for someone you know is incompetent.
And when he finally got the consultant in a corner and asked why did this happen, the answer was just one sentence.
You don't walk like a manager.
Devastating. But that was it. Rob did. And that one moment is the foundation for this entire book.
Because he realized his ability was only half the equation, maybe less.
Success wasn't about getting technically better. It was about a complete overhaul of how he was perceived by others. He had to become the right type.
The type of person the organization just instinctively trusts with more responsibility.
Exactly. And so he stumbled upon what he calls the rules. They're essentially a system for taking conscious control of that second job, managing your perception, your strategy, your social impact.
Now, we need to stress a point here. Templar is very clear that these rules are meant to be ethical and moral.
Yes, very important. This isn't a guide to backstabbing or tearing other people down. It's about mastering yourself, using your talents consciously and adapting your behavior to get the maximum impact.
It's about no longer being a victim of corporate dynamics.
It's about becoming a conscious controller of your own destiny.
So we want to challenge you, the listener, right now. Are you ready to adopt these ideas, these 108 rules, to enhance your life? I mean, to really take that conscious control of your career?
Because this isn't for slackers. This is intentional work. Let's start unpacking this code, beginning with that link between what you do and how you're seen.
Okay, part one, walk your talk. This really stems from that breakthrough moment for him, doesn't it?
It does. It's all about acting the part. He didn't just practice walking like a manager. He went bigger. He practiced the style, the mannerisms of a general manager.
He aimed one level higher than the job he even wanted.
And it worked. He skipped the manager level completely when he finally got his promotion. It put him on a total fast track.
And he ended up becoming the general manager for the very same guy who was promoted over him. I mean, that must have been satisfying.
You have to think so. But he's quick to caution that the appearance, the walk, it has to be backed up by substance.
Of course. Which brings us to rule one, which is absolutely foundational. Get your work noticed.
Right. If you're doing brilliant work but nobody knows about it, you are failing at that second job. That was the problem with Rob, his rival. Rob looked right, he sounded right, but his actual work was poor.
So perception can't replace competence.
Never. And Rule 2 reinforces that this is an ongoing thing. Never stand still.
And we see that with Rob, too. His restaurant eventually failed because he just kept walking like a manager instead of, adapting to actually be a good restaurateur.
Growth is mandatory. Which then leads us to a really high-level strategic rule, Rule 3. Volunteer carefully.
This is a huge trap for so many people. The natural instinct is to say yes to everything. You think it makes you look like a team player.
But what actually happens?
You get overworked, you get burned out, and honestly, you get taken advantage of by clever managers who are just looking to offload the grunt work.
Exactly. So Templar offers a strategic filter. Before you volunteer for anything, you have to ask yourself 3 questions. First, how does this actually further my plan?
Is it moving me forward?
Second, will I look capable to senior management? And third, he uses this great term, will I look like a monkey?
A monkey? Meaning, am I just volunteering for a routine task that anyone could do?
Yeah.
Something that just shows I'm good at filing?
Right. If you're seen as a good filing clerk, that's what you'll be. You have to make sure the task is a challenging, dirty job that shows real capability, real leadership potential, not just that you're compliant.
And there's another layer to this, what he calls involuntary volunteering.
Yes. The collective step backward, you've seen this.
Yeah.
A manager asks for someone to take on a horrible task, and everyone in the room subtly, almost imperceptibly, takes one step back.
Leaving you standing out there all alone.
And you're stuck with it. A rules player is tuned in to that social dynamic. They anticipate the retreat. They learn to step back with the herd, or at least they make sure they're not the last one standing in the spotlight of drudgery.
That is pure corporate survival intelligence.
Hmm.
Okay, so from there, he made this huge leap that really defined his own career. Rule 4, carve out a niche for yourself.
This is brilliant. He looked at the corporate ladder and realized the next logical step for him, regional director, was actually poorly paid for the amount of work it involved.
So he just decided not to play that game.
He didn't. He identified a hole in the organization. They needed someone who could operate outside the normal hierarchy, a kind of roving troubleshooter who answered only to the chairman.
So he invented his own job.
He proposed the role, wrote his own job description, and this is the crucial part. He structured his pay to be higher than the regional directors he was leapfrogging.
He created a role that only he could fill. It was about making himself non-fungible.
That is strategy at the highest level. It's about differentiation, not just climbing. And then the book summarizes a few other key performance rules to build that foundation.
Like under-promise and over-deliver, Rule 5. It's a cliche, but he frames it as essential for building what you called non-fungible trust.
Mm-hmm. When you consistently deliver more than what people expect, your word starts to carry more weight than anyone else's.
And then there are the mindset rules. Learn to ask why. Be 100% committed. Learn from others' mistakes.
Why suffer if you don't have to?
Exactly. Enjoy what you are doing and develop the right attitude. Always looking for the advantage, but using power kindly.
Which brings us to maybe the most challenging and paradoxical rule in this whole section, Rule 13. Never let anyone know how hard you work.
This is where things get tricky, isn't it? Because Templar himself admits that after he got that big promotion to general manager, he was completely out of his depth.
Totally. He had to secretly learn his new job, plus the job he'd skipped, all at the same time.
He called it secret learning.
Right. Evenings, weekends, lunch breaks, every spare minute was spent studying, mastering the role. But at the office, during work hours, he appeared completely calm, completely competent.
Okay, but a lot of people listening might hear that and just think it's a recipe for burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Is he just advocating for a kind of corporate self-flagellation?
He does address it. He balances it with Rule 11. Be passionate, but don't kill yourself. The secret learning has to have limits. The main insight here isn't that you have to work 80 hours a week. It's that you have to master the skill of appearing effortless.
So in practical terms, that means you never ask for an extension. You never moan about how much work you have.
And you never ask for help. You can ask for guidance or an opinion, but never help.
Never be seen breaking a sweat.
Never. You're always looking for ways to make your workload easier, more efficient, but those efficiencies have to be totally unnoticed. The second you look out of control, you lose your status as a high flyer.
Which connects directly to Rule 12, manage your energy.
Yes, most people are obsessed with time management. Templar says that's secondary. Energy is the real finite resource, and he breaks it down into 3 types.
First is physical energy. This is basic self-care, but treated as a core strategy.
It's non-negotiable. You stay fit, you eat well, and you go to bed on time, especially before a big day. You just can't afford to show up depleted.
Then there's mental energy, knowing your own internal clock.
Mm-hmm. Are you sharpest in the morning, or do you hit your stride after lunch? You have to schedule your most demanding, concentration-heavy tasks for your peak mental energy times. You do the admin and the emails when your energy is naturally lower.
And finally, emotional energy. This is the one that's so often ignored.
Totally. If things are tough at home, you have to find a way to proactively bolster your mood. Before you walk into the office, you can't let your internal struggles bleed into your professional performance.
And that's why Rule 14 is the essential boundary. Keep your home life at home.
Absolutely. Templar is adamant about this. You simply cannot perform that second job effectively if your mind is always somewhere else, worrying about things outside of work. These boundaries are critical for managing your energy.
Okay, so if part 1 was about mastering the connection between what you do and how you're seen, part 2 is about mastering perception itself. Pure perception.
And the theme here is that you are under constant, relentless evaluation. Templar says everything about you is being judged. Your walk, your talk, your clothes, even your car and where you go on vacation.
And you have to consciously, deliberately affect that judgment in a positive way. It starts with something really simple. Rule 15. Cultivate a smile.
But not just any smile. A fake smile is worse than no smile at all.
Oh, you can spot it a mile away.
You can. He says it has to be genuine, it has to be sincere, and it has to reach your eyes. It has to communicate actual warmth and friendliness.
And this is where he tells that amazing story about practicing in the supermarket.
It's hilarious. He was covering for a manager and realized the store's CCTV system was the perfect tool. He spent an afternoon practicing his walk and his smile on camera.
And then the manager found the tape.
And held private screenings for the staff. So yes, embarrassing, but the lesson is real. Practice is required. Just you do it in private. Your smile has to project confidence, not awkwardness.
Then Rule 16. Develop the perfect handshake. This is such an immediate status signal.
It's your first physical contact. It has to project strength, confidence, and control. You avoid the limp fish at all costs, but also the overly aggressive, bone-crushing kind.
A rules player, he says, uses a firm, secure handshake and critically.
Proffers their hand first. You take control of the introduction.
And you state your identity. You don't just say, "Hi, I'm Dave."
No, that's too casual. It drags you down. It's, "Hello, I'm David Simpson, marketing manager." You formally state your name and your position. It immediately signals seniority and seriousness.
Okay, Rule 17 is about motion. Exude confidence and energy.
This means you walk quickly. You have a spring in your step. But it's not a rushed, panicked walk. Rushing suggests you're not in control. It's a purposeful, energetic stride.
He has a great anecdote for this one, too, about a stress management talk he was giving.
Yes. Instead of standing behind a podium like everyone else, he just casually sat on the edge of the desk, swinging his legs.
Projecting total relaxation.
Total confidence, high energy, complete control. He said years later, people didn't remember a single word he said, but they remembered how he said it. They remembered the manner of the delivery.
So much of this is about the unspoken message, which leads to Rule 20. Be attractive. This could be a controversial one.
It could, but he immediately redefines it. He acknowledges that conventionally good-looking people have an advantage, sure. But then he says real attractiveness isn't about physical beauty. It's about charisma, charm, attitude. He uses Liza Minnelli or Sean Penn as examples.
People who have certain magnetism that isn't about classic good looks.
Exactly. It's an internal quality that you project outwards. And you project it through your posture, standing up straight, proud, assured. Faultless grooming is part of it, a magnetic smile. He says slouching suggests you don't believe in yourself. Everything has to be up and open.
And part of that projection is Rule 21. Be cool. The cool operator is relaxed, in control, sophisticated, especially under pressure.
Especially then. When a crisis hits, who do people look to? Not the person running around screaming. They look to the person who is calm, composed, and smoothly implementing a plan.
You signal leadership by not panicking.
While everyone else's panic confirms their status as extras.
Right. Okay, let's talk appearance strategy. Rule 18. Develop a style that gets you noticed. He's thinking classic, timeless. Cary Grant, Lauren Bacall.
Yeah. And he gives very specific tactical advice. You could choose to always wear only black, for instance. Or invest in one single high-quality signature item like a really distinctive briefcase.
And his core piece of advice is, buy only the very best you can afford.
And never, ever wear anything tight.
That's an interesting one. Why?
He argues that loose clothes signal quality, confidence, elegance. Tight clothes, in his view, suggest cheapness and a kind of poverty. It's the subtle class signal that the corporate world just absorbs unconsciously.
And that's tied to Rule 19. Pay attention to personal grooming. This has to be an every single day thing.
Like an interview day, every day. He has a whole checklist. Shoes shined, clothes pressed, clean nails, fresh breath. He says mints are a mandatory professional tool. A good haircut, updated, well-fitting glasses.
He goes into incredible detail. He even mentions wearing surgical gloves for DIY projects at home so you don't have ingrained grime under your nails on Monday.
It's about eliminating any possible small lapse that could create a negative judgment and cost you. It's that serious.
And finally, in this section, communication. Rule 22, speak well.
And again, this isn't about changing your accent. It's about clarity and effectiveness.
So no mumbling, no speaking too softly, no jargon outside of your specific area, and definitely no verbal tics like you know or like.
He says to remember 4 words for your speech: bright, clear, pleasant, and simple.
And rule 23, write well, because your writing is a direct extension of your professional image.
Your handwriting needs to be legible, mature, consistent. And he recommends a big, imposing signature, his logic. Big signature, big person.
He also gets into the psychology of it. He notes that managers will unconsciously perceive downward-sloping handwriting as a sign of a depressed or pessimistic person.
Whereas an upward slant is seen as optimistic. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. It's about the perception.
And for typed documents.
Stick to standard mature fonts. Times New Roman, Arial, 12-point. Use bold and italics sparingly, and never, ever mix different typefaces in one document. It's seen as unstable or immature. These are all the subtle cues that build or destroy your image of reliability.
All right, so after mastering our performance and our image, we move inward. Part 3, have a plan. This feels like the core engine of the whole system.
It absolutely is. Templar says it very simply. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up nowhere. A rules player always has a plan. A smart, fluid, 5-year plan.
It starts with Rule 24. Know what you want long term.
You have to study the hierarchy of your industry. You map it out. Junior, middle, senior, executive. And then you have to aim for the absolute, extreme, limitless end of your dreams. CEO, emperor of the world, whatever it is.
He warns against setting your sights too low.
Right. If you only aim for a modest promotion, you'll probably settle for even less. A rules player aims for the very top, and then they reverse engineer all the steps they need to take to get there.
And Rule 25 is about breaking that down into the short term. He suggests having 3 plans running at once.
Yes. A 1-month plan, which is about executing your current work. A 1-year plan for things that are being formulated, including what he calls butter projects.
Like writing a book or building a key relationship.
Exactly. And then the 5-year plan, which is your general direction, your major goals. This layered approach gives you flexibility.
So you're not locked in. If a new opportunity comes up,
Yeah.
you can evaluate it against your 5-year goal and decide if it's worth pursuing.
It lets you seize the moment without derailing your whole mission.
Then Rules 26 and 27 are a pair. Study the promotion system and develop a game plan.
The first part is research. You list every single skill and piece of experience you need for every intermediate step up the ladder. Then the game plan. That's your personal mission statement.
It's about deciding who you're going to be on this journey.
Yes. It's what stops you from becoming that ruthless corporate monster or the office bore who only talks about work. Templar's example is powerful. I will be successful and still be a thoroughly nice person.
It's an ethical anchor.
It is. Now, Rule 28 is more tactical. Set objectives. These are simple, single-sentence mission statements for navigating daily challenges.
So you don't get sidetracked by office politics or pointless debates.
Exactly. Let's say Stephen from accounts always tries to wind you up in meetings. Your objective for that meeting is simple. I will only speak on relevant matters and I will not rise to Stephen's bait.
Or his wildflower meadow objective.
Right. If the committee starts arguing about whether to plant marsh buttercups or oxeye daisies in the new landscaping, your objective is to present your report and then leave immediately. You state that the rest of the discussion is irrelevant to you. It's about asserting control over your time and focus.
Rule 29 is crucial for using your skills strategically. Know your role. And it doesn't mean your job title.
No, he's talking about how you fit into the team dynamic. He references Dr. Meredith Belbin's 9 team roles.
So you have the plant, who is the creative ideas person, the coordinator, who manages the team, the shaper, who drives action, the specialist, who has deep technical knowledge.
And understanding which one you are is the key to Rule 30. Know your self-strengths and weaknesses. Most of us are terrible at self-objectivity.
But if you know you're a plant, a creative type, then your weaknesses, like maybe being a bit disorganized or bad at follow-through, are acceptable. They're part of the package. Your job is to have the idea not necessarily implement every detail.
Exactly. Strengths and weaknesses are relative to your chosen role. If you're a completer, the person who dots the I's and crosses the T's, then being a highly creative, easily distracted person is a weakness. The trick is to work with your nature, not fight it.
This sets up one of my favorite concepts in the whole book, Rule 31. Identify key times and events. He calls it the Cobra strategy.
It's a perfect analogy. A cobra has enormous power, but it strikes very rarely, only when it's absolutely necessary, appropriate, and beneficial.
And most professionals do the opposite. They waste their energy on small, insignificant tasks.
All the time, the rules player saves their power. They conserve their energy for the moments that truly matter. You don't stay up all night working on a small internal report that only 2 people will see.
You save that all-nighter for the big report that's going directly to the president, or the crucial presentation to the board.
And when you strike rarely, your output is seen as high value. It becomes this non-fungible display of power. And Rule 33 follows from that. Look for opportunities. He says they're like a ball thrown at you. You have a split second to catch it, no time to hesitate.
You catch it or it's gone.
Forever. And finally, the rule that underpins all of this. Rule 34, make learning a lifelong mission.
Stagnation is death in this model.
It is. He tells these great stories. The customs officer who retires at 65, goes to law school, and qualifies as a barrister at age 70 just because he loved learning.
Or the teacher who wins a scholarship to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. It's about keeping your mind open, free, and exercised. That's what makes you adaptable and, ultimately, more successful. Let's shift focus to part 4, which is all about reputation management through your interactions. The title says it all. If you can't say anything nice, shut up.
This is about maturity. You're judged as much by what you don't say as by what you do. Rule 35 is the perfect example. Don't gossip.
He calls gossip the occupation of idle, mindless workers, which is harsh, but probably true.
His strategy is simple. You can listen to gossip, but you never, ever pass it on. It stops with you. That way, you're seen as being in the know and trustworthy, but you're not actually a gossip yourself. Discretion builds a huge amount of professional capital.
And then Rule 36, don't bitch. We all know the world isn't fair. Incompetent people get promotions, but moaning about it is just pointless.
It's unproductive, it identifies you as petty, and it makes you a magnet for all the other moaners in the office.
And he has this brilliant solution, the required antidote, if you feel the urge to complain about something.
You must force yourself to offer a constructive solution to the problem. If you can't think of a solution, you're not allowed to complain.
It's genius. It just stops unproductive bitching in its tracks. And the same goes for people. If you want to criticize someone, you have to do it to their face.
And since most of us won't do that, we stop doing it behind their back. Okay, on the flip side, Rule 37, compliment people sincerely.
Sincerity is everything here. Glib, fake compliments just make you look like a slime ball, as he puts it.
His advice is to be simple, but meaningful. Use phrases like, I was genuinely impressed by, or I really liked how you handled that. And then follow up with a professional question.
I must say, I liked your presentation structure. How did you manage to get that data cleared so quickly?
Exactly. Keep it professional. Avoid anything that could be misinterpreted as flirting.
Next are a few rules for a healthy environment. Stand up for others, be cheerful and positive, and ask questions, which shows you're interested in your colleagues.
But then we get to a really simple concept that Templar turns into a strategic weapon. Rule 41, use please and thank you.
It's basic human decency, but it gets forgotten so easily at work.
And Templar says it's much more than just good manners. It's a non-fungible currency. It generates loyalty and discretionary effort from people in a way that money or threats never can.
He tells the story of the manager whose staff would work weekends and holidays without complaining.
And his secret was just that he said please and thank you sincerely every single time. It builds incredible goodwill. And this also applies when you're the one being praised. Don't brush it off by saying, oh, it was nothing.
Just say thank you.
Just say thank you. It accepts the compliment and shows you have confidence in your work.
Okay, Rule 42 is an interesting one. Don't swear. He frames it as an efficiency rule.
It is. It's not about being a prude. It's about reducing cognitive load. Swearing forces you to make constant little decisions.
Can I swear in front of my boss?
Yes, and you?
In return, the client?
If your default setting at work is just don't swear, all those decisions disappear. It saves mental energy and keeps you professional.
And then Rule 43, be a good listener. This means active listening, showing the speaker that you are fully engaged.
So you have to do specific things. Make encouraging noises like or go on. Use appropriate body language. Lean in. Make eye contact. Repeat key points back to them to confirm you understood. So the move to Gloucester isn't going to happen now. Taking notes is also key. The benefits are huge. You get more information, people see you as sympathetic and intelligent, and they see you as being on top of your job.
Finally, Rule 44. Only speak sense. He warns that one careless comment can destroy years of hard work building your image.
An off-color joke, an arrogant remark, revealing what you really think about someone, you have to guard your tone.
Think before you speak. And if you speak less, but everything you say is meaningful, your words will carry far more weight. You gain a reputation for wisdom and maturity. Stop chattering about last night's TV.
Exactly.
All right, moving on to part 5. Look after yourself. This is all about integrity and self-preservation, because the higher you climb, the more scrutiny you're under.
You need to minimize enemies and protect your back. It's about having the ability to sleep nights, as he says. It starts with Rule 45. Know the ethics of your industry.
You have to understand the moral landscape you're operating in. And if you find out your industry is a bit morally ambiguous, he doesn't just say you should quit.
No, he suggests you can work from the inside to change things. If you're asked to do something you feel is unethical, you use what he calls the whistleblower card, but you do it cleverly.
You don't make it about your own morals. You make it about the company's risk.
Right. You constantly ask the team, what would the press do if they got hold of this? And you suggest headlines. Scrooge Ltd. replaces sacked workers with sweatshop labor. It allows you to raise the ethical flag while still appearing to be a loyal company person protecting the firm's reputation.
And related to that is Rule 46. Know the legalities of your industry. You have to be cleaner than clean.
Because ignorance is not a defense, especially when a company is looking for a scapegoat. Templar tells a story about leaving a corrupt company because they asked him to do something illegal.
And even when he went to a rival company, he refused to give away his old company's secrets.
He maintained his honor. Staying clean protects your long-term reputation. It's about avoiding catastrophe.
This leads to Rule 47. Set personal standards. This is your personal, non-negotiable code of conduct.
Templar shares his own. Never knowingly hurt another person. Always put family first. No working evenings or weekends unless it's a genuine emergency. And always pass on skills freely. These are the lines you will not cross, and they keep you stable.
And the ultimate default setting in this section is Rule 48. Never lie.
It's the simplest approach because it removes all choice. The moment you tell one lie, you have to start making choices. Which lie to tell, who to tell it to, how to keep track of it. The risk of being caught is just too high.
Okay, but how does he square this absolute rule against lying with some of the more strategic manipulations he suggests later, like engineering a situation to impress an auditor?
It's a fine line, but a crucial one. He says you never lie about verifiable facts. Your qualifications, sales numbers, performance metrics, that's a firing offense. But you are allowed to embellish your enthusiasm or opinion.
So saying this book is brilliant is fine, because it's an opinion.
But saying you have a PhD when you don't is a lie. The strategic maneuvering is about managing perception using real facts and behaviors, not inventing fake ones.
Got it. Rule 49 is simple. Never cover up for anyone else. It just complicates your life and puts you at risk.
And Rule 50. Keep records. Keep a copy of everything. Every memo, every note, every important email. Templar says he won a 5-year-old dispute with a publisher simply because he'd kept his original notes.
Records save you. Never throw anything away unless you are 100% sure you'll never need it again.
And then there's the personal side. Rule 53. Date with caution. If you date a colleague, you have to be hyper-aware of the optics.
So you set ground rules. No public displays of affection at work. No huddling and telling in-jokes. You let your managers know.
And you reallocate tasks if there's a conflict of interest, like one of you having to do the other's performance appraisal. You have to maintain those professional boundaries at all times.
Then Rule 54. Understand others' motives.
He says most people's motives are actually pretty simple. It boils down to a few things. Power, money, prestige, revenge, or the need to be loved. You just have to identify which one is driving your colleagues and your bosses.
Knowledge is power. It lets you handle them without being paranoid or fawning.
And finally, the most important rule in this section for long-term survival, Rule 57. Put things in perspective.
It is only a job.
This is Templar's warning against burnout culture. If your job is affecting your health, if you're losing sleep, if it's pushing you toward destructive behaviors like drinking too much, you have failed the most important rule of all.
Work to live, don't live to work.
He's very passionate about this, especially about putting family first.
Yeah.
He says that time with your children zips past and then is irrecoverably gone. This rule is what makes sure your professional success is actually sustainable and meaningful.
Okay, part 6 feels like a masterclass in social engineering. Blend in.
It really is. The premise is that you can be the most talented person there, but if you don't fit the organizational mold, the system will reject you.
The black sheep danger.
Exactly. He says the goal is to blend in, become one of them, so that you only stand out as a better, more efficient leader, not as an outsider. He even cites research that 70% of dismissals are because someone doesn't fit the corporate culture, not because they're incompetent.
That's a staggering number. And it starts with Rule 58, know the corporate culture.
The culture is just how we do things around here. It grows organically. He uses this great example of a design studio that used a quiz in its hiring process. They asked, who made a film consisting of nothing but the color blue?
The answer is Derek Jarman, for anyone wondering.
Right, but they weren't trying to hire a film expert. It was a strategic filter. They wanted to attract a very specific type of person who fit their intellectual, non-traditional culture. If the culture at your company is golf, a rules player learns to play golf. You adapt the surface to match the group.
Which leads to Rule 64. Understand the social protocols. These are the unwritten rules.
The ones that are often born from some past incident. Like, you never take your partner to the staff dinner because years ago, a CEO's partner made a pass at a junior manager. Or you know never to park in a certain spot. Or that Sylvia, in accounts, always gets the jelly donut.
You have to learn the local folklore.
You do. He tells a story about an office where all drinking was banned, even a single beer after work. It turned out a finance manager had been using lunchtime drinking as a cover to embezzle money. You have to know these protocols, however irrational they seem, to avoid a social mistake that marks you as an outsider.
And then the big picture, Rule 68. Understand the herd mentality.
People form groups for safety and security. Blending in doesn't mean you lose your individuality. It means you become the wolf in sheep's clothing.
That's a strong image.
But it's accurate. If the sheep accept your outer appearance, you can basically do what you want with them. You can lead them. But if they sense any wolfishness, any difference, arrogance, or nonconformity, they get unsettled. So you have to think independent wolfish thoughts while maintaining the outer appearance of a cooperative sheep.
Which is the perfect lead-in to Part 7. Act one step ahead. This brings us right back to the main thesis.
You must practice the attitude and mannerisms of the position directly above your current one, and you must start now.
So Rules 69 through 72 are all about this. Dress one step ahead. And Rule 70, talk one step ahead.
This means talking like a grown-up. You avoid gossip. You don't chatter inanely about trivial things. You don't swear. Your speech becomes more thoughtful, more focused, more dynamic.
And you keep your personal details to yourself. You become a bit aloof.
But it's a specific kind of aloofness. It's detachment and superiority based on skill and experience. It is not arrogance, which just signals insecurity.
Then Rule 71, act one step ahead, be slicker, quicker, sleeker.
And use more expedient, commanding language. The higher up you go, the less time you have for extra words. So instead of a polite, come in please, when someone knocks, you use a simple, direct, come.
It's subtle, but it projects authority. And Rule 72, think one step ahead.
This is about seeing the big picture. You stop thinking about how things affect your petty little desk footprint, as he calls it, and you start thinking about the entire organization. You stop being an extra in the movie and you start acting like the director.
Rule 74 is a great one. Make your company better for having you there.
You look for simple, universal solutions that save money, are easy to implement, and help everyone.
He gives the example of an employee who was pretty insignificant, but he noticed the company's phone system didn't have a user manual.
So he created one, a simple, clear guide that every single department could use. It was a small thing, but it created an asset that everyone shared. And all that credit for making life easier rubbed off on him. It elevated his status way beyond his actual job title.
Then Rule 75, talk of we rather than I.
This is a classic leadership trait. He even suggests buying a few shares in your company because then you can honestly say you're working for yourself and the other shareholders.
And it changes how you phrase things. Instead of, I hate this new procedure, it becomes,
we need to consider how the junior staff will react if we implement this. It projects a responsible corporate perspective, not just a personal gripe.
and the payoff for all this is Rule 78 and 79. Get people to assume you have already made the step and prepare for the step after next.
Once people get used to seeing you as a high flyer, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You project that mature, serious, trustworthy image, and it just accelerates your actual promotion.
Okay, so once you start acting like a leader, you inevitably have to deal with conflict. Part 8, cultivate diplomacy.
Yes. When you operate at this higher level, you become the diplomat. You're the one who stops the fights, who mends the fences, who spreads calm, and that role earns you an immense amount of professional respect.
Rule 80 gives a fantastic technique. Ask questions in times of conflict.
So two colleagues are at each other's throats in a meeting. You don't try to mediate the emotion. Instead, you step in and ask a very specific, highly detailed, factual question.
Steve, can you walk me through exactly why you're convinced your department will find these new invoices unworkable?
Exactly. It forces them to break eye contact, to focus on a logical answer instead of the fight, and it subtly allows you to take control of the meeting. The heat just dissipates. But you have to avoid psychobabble questions. Keep it practical.
And Rule 81 is non-negotiable. Don't take sides.
The second you take a side, you become part of the fight. You lose your objectivity and your power as a diplomat.
What if a friend tries to drag you in?
You have to use humor and seniority. Say something like, "Don't involve me. If you two can't sort this out like adults, I'm sending you both to your rooms." You maintain complete impartiality.
Rule 82. Know when to keep your opinions to yourself. Most people offer opinions just to seem clever.
A roles player only speaks when asked. And when they do, they express their opinion as a fact.
So you don't say, I think we should do this.
You say, "We should do this." It makes your view sound less like a tentative thought and more like the obvious, inevitable solution. It gives your words much more weight.
Then Rule 84, never lose your temper. You lose respect. You lose control. And Rule 85, never get personal.
When you have to criticize someone, you focus only on the behavior, their timekeeping, their attitude, their productivity, never on the person. You don't call them names or attack their character. And an extension of this is that you always have to stick up for your boss in public, even if you think they're incompetent. You present a unified front.
Rule 86 is about handling anger from others. He splits it into 2 types.
Right. There's justified anger. In that case, you listen, you apologize sincerely, and you try to put things right. You show empathy.
And then there's tactical anger.
The kind people use just to intimidate you. When someone starts shouting at you, you have to state clearly and calmly, "I don't like being shouted at, and I will leave if you don't calm down." And if they keep going, you just silently get up and walk out.
You don't engage. And that flows into Rule 87. Stand your ground. No one has the right to bully you.
Assertiveness here means stating your bottom line. And he recommends the stuck record technique. You just repeat your assertion calmly. "I don't appreciate being treated like this. I don't appreciate being treated like this." You don't escalate. You just repeat the boundary.
And all of this requires Rule 88, being objective about the situation. You have to remove your own emotions to be an effective diplomat.
That's the foundation of the whole section.
All right, we're in the home stretch. Parts 9 and 10 are about deep system mastery. Know the system and handle the opposition.
This is the inner circle stuff. Navigating the real politics and the inevitable competition for the top spots.
It kicks off with Rule 90. Know what to call everyone. Using names strategically.
He tells a great story about his new boss, Mr. Cutler, who insisted on being called Mr. Cutler. Templar waited for the right moment in front of all the other assistants and casually called him Peter.
A bold move.
A very bold move, but it worked. It instantly made him seem like the senior assistant, like he had a special relationship the others didn't. But conversely, you have to know that Mrs. Robertson in accounts must always be called Mrs. Robertson because she signs the paychecks and you don't mess with her.
Rule 91 is a rebellion against modern work culture. Know when to stay late and when to go early.
This is all about avoiding presenteeism, that curse of staying late just because everyone else is, just for perception.
A rules player gets their work done on time.
And then they leave, confidently and honestly. They might say, "Last one out, turns off the lights." By being hyper-efficient, you liberate yourself from that expectation of putting in long, often wasted hours.
Rule 92. Know the theft or perks rule. Be cleaner than clean.
Don't take pens. Don't make unauthorized copies of software. It's just not worth the risk of getting sacked over something so petty.
And what if your colleagues are fiddling their expenses?
You don't want to be a rat, but you can't be complicit. So the solution is to warn them in advance. You tell them you won't be a party to it. That way you're not covering for them, but you're also not actively reporting them later on.
Rules 93 and 94 are critical for building social capital. Identify the people who count and be on the right side of them.
And these are not always the people with the fancy job titles. They're the ones with real influence, real juice. Templar learned this the hard way when he chewed out Harry, the maintenance man.
Only to find out he was the regional director's father-in-law.
Whoops. Harry had unaccountable power. Other people like this might be the CEO's driver, the auditor, the person who runs the lunchroom.
And this is where that strategic serendipity comes in. The story of the Manchester University scarf.
It's fantastic. He was wearing a scarf he just bought at a garage sale. The company auditor, this powerful, feared man, saw it and instantly accepted Templar as a chum because they'd apparently gone to the same university.
It made him untouchable to the auditor.
And Templar admits that since then, he has deliberately engineered those kinds of moments. Finding shared interests, having strategic conversations, getting on the right side of the people who count.
Rule 97 is about navigating office politics. Know the favorites and cultivate them.
If the boss has favorites, your goal is to become one, but based on your competence and skill, not by brown-nosing or flattery. And if you do become a favorite, you deny it. You stay humble. Then, you make friends with the favorites in other departments, so you're part of the universal in-crowd.
Rule 98 is a clever one. Know the mission statement and understand it.
He says mission statements contain hidden political power. He uses Disney's value statement about nurturing wholesome American values as an example.
So if someone in a meeting proposes an idea you don't like,
you can deploy the mission statement as a weapon. You say, well, while I appreciate the effort that went into that, I'm not sure it's entirely wholesomely American. It shuts down the debate by using the company's own sacred text against the idea.
And it makes you look incredibly aligned with the company's core values.
Right. Now, when it comes to handling direct opposition, Rule 100 is study them closely. If you're competing for a promotion, you have to tailor your own candidacy to look like the ideal, and you try to swing the focus onto your own strengths.
But Rule 101 says don't backstab.
Absolutely not. You don't badmouth your opponent, you just talk up your own good points. Focusing on the negative just reflects badly on you.
And you need Rule 102. Know the psychology of promotion. Be aware that a job ad might not be what it seems. It could already be filled internally, or it might be a setup. You have to proceed with caution.
And Rule 103, don't give too much away. Keep your plans to yourself. Don't tell everyone you're applying for a job or asking for a raise. Don't let rumors give your opposition an advantage.
And finally, Rule 107. Capitalize on the career-enhancing moments.
These are the opportunities to really shine. Running a presentation, chairing a meeting, organizing the staff party, dealing with the media. These aren't chores, they're showcases. And you should always be looking for ways to make them slicker and better. There are no bad jobs, only bad attitudes toward jobs.
Okay, so we have covered 108 rules. But Templar ends with one final, crucial piece of advice in the postscript. Know when to break the rules.
This is the final test of a true rules player, the ultimate test of a conscious controller. At first, you have to follow every rule meticulously until they become second nature, until they're ingrained instinct.
But once you're comfortable, once you're self-assured,
you can trust your gut. You can trust your own ethics. Templar admits he has broken the rules a few times. He tells a story about deliberately belittling someone in public, something a rules player should never do.
But he did it for a very specific reason.
He did it to stop that person from constantly belittling other, more junior people. It was a decision based on a higher ethical principle, not on convenience or spite.
So the end result of mastering this definitive code is profound. It's greater self-pride, better relationships with colleagues, promotions, being valued, being respected.
They're simple, they're effective, they're safe, and they're practical. They build your confidence and your capability at the same time.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means it's time to embrace conscious control, to stop passively hoping that just working hard will be enough. This book, The Rules of Work, Expanded Edition First by Richard Templar, really does provide a definitive code.
So we have a final challenge for you. Before you leave work today, we challenge you to take one immediate conscious action based on this philosophy. We challenge you to identify the people who count, Rule 93, in your organization. And for the rest of this week, consciously work to get on the right side of just one of them.
And if these ideas have resonated with you, we strongly encourage you to purchase the book, The Rules of Work, Expanded Edition First by Richard Templar. And keep this code for personal success on hand as you navigate your career.
And we also want you to participate. Share your stories of being a conscious professional. You can engage with the author, Richard Templar, on social media. Share your wins, share your challenges of being a rules player.
Thank you for joining us for this extensive podcast episode. If you found these insights valuable, please follow, subscribe, and share the Playing Books podcast with someone else who needs that critical advantage in their career.
Until next time, be the conscious controller, not the unconscious victim.